Hello, my name is Deborah Schaefer and I'm a certified consultant for PCLaw. I am going to talk to you about 1099s. 1099s get produced at the end of the year. You are supposed to send a 1099 to any individual, someone like a sheriff, a court reporter, anybody who's not a corporation, telling them exactly how much you paid them during the year. In order to have a 1099 produced, you need to create the vendor as a vendor in PCLaw. So you're going to want to create a vendor for anybody you pay that you need to give a 1099 to. You will need to say 1099 type miscellaneous, and you'll need to get their ID number. You will want their address information as well. The vendor ID is something you can assign. You can make it whatever you'd like. The account number would be the account number that's on the invoice you receive from the vendor. Once the vendors are created in PCLaw, every time you create a payable and then pay the vendor, PCLaw is going to keep track of that payment. You can also access the vendor from your general check. If you go to Options, System Settings, on the Other tab, you select Show Vendors in Paid To Pop-Up Help. When you go to write your check, if you double-click in the To box, all of your vendors are going to show. From here, you can select the vendor. You can even type in the vendor if you want. I don't know. Let me just quickly get a name in my data set. Okay, we'll use Triangle News. So if I type in Triangle here, it's going to search my vendor file. I select the vendor, I tab to the next field, and these fields will pop up on the check, include an AP and an invoice number. That designates that you are attaching this check to a vendor. If you have paid Triangle News and you come into a check and you just simply type Triangle News and it does not pop up with these other two fields, it may be a memorized transaction. And it will be gone. The check will go to that person, but it is not attached to the vendor record. It is very important that you see these fields when you do the check. So after you've done all your checks, you're ready to do your 1099s at the end of the year. You go to Reports, Accounts Payable, and there is something called a 1099 listing. And this would be the way you would start. You would put in the dates of the year that you were working on. And again, I believe that the threshold is currently $700, but the default is $600. You will notice down here that you can include general checks and trust checks. So that means that the vendor does not have to be paid through accounts payable, but you do want to include any payments that came from just straight general checks or trust checks. And I always recommend, what did I do wrong? I typed the date in wrong. I always recommend that you do check these. So the 1099 listing is going to show you any vendor that you paid in this year. Now, let's say the listing comes up like this and there are no vendors here. You can run a report in your journals, whether it be a bank or a trust, and you can go to the other tab, enter the vendor's name here, change your dates to get that total. And if you had not attached the vendor to all those records, you could force a 1099 by going into the vendor record itself and putting something in the opening balance. And that will force a 1099 to be printed. But at the beginning of the year, you want to make sure all of your vendors are set up so that when you go to do your 1099s at the end of the year, everything is set up for you. After you've verified your 1099 report, you can print the 1099s directly from PCLaw. Again, You want to change your date range. Mine's already set here. You want to include those general checks. You can do a test print of your form, and you print the forms. When you print the 1099 forms through PCLaw, it's going to ask you to put in copy A, copy B, copy C, whatever copies it wants, and it does the entire set for each copy at a time. Once the 1099s have completed the printing, you will be asked if you want to reset the balances for the year. If the 1099s are good, if everything is right, I would reset the balances. And so that it will now accumulate for the next year going forward. That is basically your 1099 printing. You start with the listing, and once that's correct, you do your forms, and then you have your 1099s completed for your year. My name is Deborah Schaefer. Thank you for your attention.